Hello, everybody. This is the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. This is the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association monthly meeting. Thank you, everybody, all here in the audience for coming. We have hundreds of people on our Zoom call tonight as well, 700 people on Zoom. Hello, everybody at home. We are also broadcasting live on NPR Radio, LAist, and we've got a lot of the press here, so welcome, everybody. So I do want to go ahead and you guys already know the ground rules. We're here to hear Karen Bass and Nithya Raman tonight. The debate is going to be, the questions were fielded from our members from the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association, the Sherman Oaks Encino Chamber of Commerce, and the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council. So there will not be any questions from the audience except for the ones that are already pre-come in, and you guys will hear those. These aren't Sherman Oaks issues, these are Los Angeles issues. So we have Tammy Shear, who represents the Sherman Oaks Encino Chamber of Commerce. We have Howard Katchen, who's the president of the Neighborhood Council. We have Larry Slade, who is a board member of the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. And we have Phil Schuman, who's LA's #1, sorry, the rest of the news here, anchorman, news guys, seasoned guy, great guy. No clapping. Phil Schuman, take it over.
Thank you, Matt. So thank you very much for being here tonight. We appreciate your time. We can all debate where Los Angeles is right now, but there's no disagreement on the fact that everyone in here is committed to making Los Angeles the best city it can be. And what we're trying to do tonight is figure out which one of these two is best equipped to get us there. And hopefully when we leave tonight, you'll have a better understanding of who you're going to vote for. So we're going to start with 3 topics: homelessness, public safety in the LAPD, business and the economy, including city services, the entertainment industry, and then we'll broaden it out into other questions. And we're going to give each candidate 2 minutes at the very beginning on each of those 3 issues. So should we get right into it, Matt? Mayor Bass, obviously homeless is the big issue. So we're going to start just by asking you to remind our audience, tell our audience what your priorities are, if you have to list the top priority or top 2 or 3 priorities, given where we're at in 2026, given what you know has worked and hasn't worked.
First of all, good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you today. End street homelessness, period. We absolutely have to do that. But now we need to increase massively the number of Angelenos that we get off of our streets. We need to look for less expensive ways, moving away from motels, using city-owned property to put up new and improved and more modern shelters, and also providing the services that people need. We've already started to do this. As a matter of fact, just last week, we cut the ribbon for one of these developments in an adjacent city council district, but we have to get people off the streets. But after that, we actually need to transform the entire system. The city needs to be in control. Right now, one of the fundamental dysfunctional features of the system is it's governed by the city, it's governed by the county, and it's governed by LAHSA. So for example, the city gets people off the streets and into housing, but LAHSA and the county controls who moves from shelters and interim housing into permanent housing. The other thing the city and the county, the city and the LAHSA control is the services. So in other words, the county controls the services, and you know, and everybody in here knows, until we address drugs and until we address mental health, we will not be able to end homelessness in this city. That is absolutely an imperative. Given that the county and LAHSA determines who gets the housing, what that means is that sometimes they put people from neighboring cities in housing that the city controls, that the city pays for. And so we absolutely have to get the services. If the city controls the system completely, we can have our own contracts with federally qualified health clinics to get people the health care that they need, especially in terms of drugs and mental health. I believe in ending street homelessness, period.
Thank you. Still shocking to everybody in here that 30 years into this, we're still debating the structure and the hierarchy and the strategy.
That's right.
So, Councilperson Raman, 2 minutes, same subject.
Yeah. So I think Angelenos are really fed up with this issue. They're fed up with spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year and not seeing the results that they deserve on their streets. I think they have lost trust and faith in the system. And by the way, people on the streets have lost trust and faith in the system. in the system as well. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Great. And I feel like the last 3.5 years where this mayor has spent $400 million on Inside Safe, refused audits, spent heavily on a program that has sent 40% of participants back to the streets, and spent sometimes $100,000 a year per person, have actually made some of these issues worse. And I've pushed back on this and the problems that the system has had in City Hall. But here's what I would do to change it. One, within the first 6 months of me being in office, I would audit every dollar, and I would track the performance of every dollar. And we've already laid the groundwork for that in my time in City Council by creating data for the first time about beds and performance and outcomes. And I would use that to make sure all of your dollars are being spent wisely. Just like we did in my council district, the second thing that I would do is actually create real leadership and management over this issue at City Hall. I've pushed to create a Bureau of Homelessness Oversight. It's been slow to be staffed, but we need to be in charge of these dollars. Right now, the city funds 8,000 beds. No one's in charge of filling them. No one is making sure that every dollar is being spent at City Hall. We leave it to someone else to do that. And finally, we need to deal with the mental health and substance use crisis on our streets. In my council district, we beg and plead for the county to show up, and they do sometimes. And we fill in the gaps by funding street medicine teams. I want to do the same thing citywide. No one's advocating for the city to get what we're paying for, by the way, with our tax dollars. We're paying for mental health beds that we're not getting. And I would be out there advocating for them using my seat as the mayor.
Thank you. We're going to come back.
Excuse me, so you might need to explain what the ground rules are, because if my opponent says something that's blatantly untrue, I definitely want an opportunity to counter it. So saying that it costs $100,000.
Can you do it in 30 seconds?
Sure, I can.
I said some beds.
Saying that it costs $100,000, and you have said this on many occasions,
Yes.
that Inside Safe costs $85,000, $100,000, when you know perfectly well that the county reimburses for those services, which means if you look at Inside Safe and your own department, and by the way, you are the chair, or you were the chair
30
of the
seconds.
Homelessness Committee, and you know that we pay essentially the same amount for Inside Safe as we do for other forms of interim
We also
housing.
pay for county taxes, so we are paying for all
All
of
right,
those
we're going to come back
costs.
to this issue, I
Yeah.
can assure you.
We're paying for those costs, no matter who's paying it, city or county.
All right, the second general topic is public safety and the LAPD. Much debate over the LAPD's budget, over the LAPD raises, over the levels of personnel in the LAPD. So let's start with Councilperson Raman. When you were here during the primaries, you spent a lot of time defending your vote against a raise for the LAPD, saying
Yes.
that the money, you need to be convinced that the money they already have is being spent correctly.
Well, no.
What are your thoughts to this group now, several months later, on public safety and the LAPD?
Well, look, everyone deserves to feel safe in this city. We need that. And we've been promised every single year that this mayor has been in office that we're going to grow the police force. And the contract I voted against gave salary raises to the PD that we couldn't afford. I think every city worker should be paid well. I think police officers should be paid well. This is not a dispute about that. This is about fiscal management of our public tax dollars. This contract gave raises to this PD that our city couldn't afford. And we suffered as a result. We had $1 billion budget deficit as a result. And now across the entire city, we cut street lighting, we cut pothole repair. We have more potholes on our streets than we did before. We do less graffiti removal than we did before. We absolutely need to be able to at least retain the size of the police force that we have right now. But we are not doing that. We are actually losing people every single year. And I think we need to do better. And you deserve a city that responds to your calls for help, that shows up and is the right person to show up for the call for help that you're putting out there. I think that's incredibly important. So first of all, we need to do a few things. We need to make sure that we're getting clear data about crimes across every neighborhood. Under this mayor's leadership, we don't have that neighborhood level data. So we as residents don't know whether we're getting the kind of protection that we deserve. We need to make sure that we're changing our hiring practices. The last 2 recruit classes have had less than 1/3 of the total capacity that they could. We can have 60 in each class. We have 20 in the last one, 17 in the last one, because our city hiring and personnel programs, which she's promised to change, have never been changed. But we also need to make sure that for all of those calls for service, where we don't need armed officers to go out, that we're actually building out a citywide system, something I am deeply committed to doing. I've created a plan for doing. We can take thousands of calls for service off of LAPD's plate and make sure that the entire city is safer.
Do you want to follow up on anything she said, or would you rather
I want
make
to
your
follow
own
up on just
presentation?
about everything that she said, but it is completely ironic that you're talking about the unarmed services, such as the Circle program. When you asked us to help you in your district, like you have asked me repeatedly, we brought out the Circle program here. You have a lot of nerve talking about the hiring of police officers when we finally reached the point where we had a decent-sized class, and you voted against it, which was the reason we couldn't have the class.
It passed, by the way. It did
still
pass.
voted against it, as
all
you have
passed.
voted against hiring police officers consistently. You talk about paying police officers decently. We gave police officers a raise because we couldn't keep them in the city of Los Angeles.
Does she
We
not
were
want to have a safe
competitive.
city? Does she not want to have a
Well,
safe city?
I think that she's irresponsible in what she talks about, because she talks about out of both sides of her mouth. She wants to study everything. And I am one that believe in data and believe in studying, but the city council and the city of Los Angeles is not an academic institution. We need to act. She does not act. She studies. I act. We got the police hired.
Okay.
We
Sorry.
gave them the raise that they deserved. And by the
Sorry,
way, when there has been a spike in crime
sorry,
here, you all have called me.
I do
you
want-
called me and I acted.
All right, what is
gotta
it? What
say
is it you
that.
feel she said was untrue?
I do want to say we do have time limits here, so I just want to make sure that we're honoring them.
30 seconds.
And I just want to say I voted for budgets that have maintained and even expanded our police force. What I have voted against is a contract that bankrupted our city.
All right.
And I think
You
that's really
voted- no.
really important to underscore.
All right, we're going to come back to this
I
also.
think we have to be good.
Please do.
We have to be good fiscal stewards of our public dollars, and to pay public dollars for political gains,
Right. No,
for
you made your
political
point. We got your
support
point.
in
All
elections,
right.
is
And we
not
need
the
to
way
be-
that we should be
All
running
right,
our city.
business and the economy. Each candidate has 2 minutes to talk about their top ideas to stimulate business, bring business back, make Los Angeles more business friendly. Let's start with Mayor Best.
Sure. Well, I started working with the business community 5 years ago, and they had specific suggestions for why it was so difficult to do business here. I put those in the form of an executive directive, and in that executive directive, it ordered departments to make it easier to do business. We appointed a film czar because filming in LA is obviously our critical business. So our film czar provides concierge services for anybody that wants to film here. We've also reduced the price of filming. So if you ask me for things that I would do in addition, we want to have a centralized development services authority. Because right now, to develop anything in the city of Los Angeles, you have to go through 12 different departments. So this centralized authority would be the lead agency, so you only need to go to one department. We also
Why don't we have that already?
What did you say? Why don't we have that already? Because the way the city has functioned, but over the years, I have begun that type of transformation. Lessons that we learned from the Palisades, lessons that we learned from homelessness, where we had one-stop shops. Now we need one central agency, so you don't have to go to 12 different departments. We also need to expand workforce housing. One thing that I have done is fast-tracked 42,000 units of housing, and also moved adaptive reuse, so that we have been able to change hundreds of units of empty office space into housing. But we need to build housing that are starter homes, such as townhomes and condos. But we're going to have to change state law to do some of that. Because I served in Sacramento, I know how to get the law changed. So we have been working with businesses. We had $45 million in new contracts for small businesses, and we've also been hosting summits for small businesses so they could prepare for contracts when the Olympics come in a couple of years. But in other words, for business to work in the city has to be safe, and we have to have an adequate number of law enforcement. A study is not going to get you there.
I don't know if she wants to study it as much as she was saying she wants to make sure that the dollars are accounted for.
Yes.
So do I. So do I. But
That
if you
is
look at her
correct.
track record,
That is
that's
correct.
what comes out of her work.
Okay. So
is study.
on the
That is-
topic of business and the economy to make Los
Sure.
Angeles more business friendly.
Yes, so we desperately need to bring businesses back to LA. We need to make sure that businesses know that this is a business-friendly city again. And right now, I've been talking to small business owners, restaurateurs, people who are involved in much bigger scale businesses across the entire city. And what they're saying is that they have a city hall and a mayor who has not invited them in and who has not created the supportive environment for them to grow. So
know who
here's
you're
what
talking to.
here's what we need to do. We need to have a real economic development strategy. We are a big city. We're the second largest city in America. We don't have that. We don't have a place in the city that's tasked with ensuring that we're diversifying our economy. I would establish that in the mayor's office and eventually make sure that we institutionalize that function in the city. I want to make sure small businesses, restaurants, retail storefronts who right now see City Hall as an obstacle. It takes 18 months to get a permit to open a bakery that I just visited in Canoga Park. It's crazy. We want their tax dollars, and yet we make it so hard for them to open. We have to make it simpler and easier for people to open up exactly the kind of small businesses we need to support. And they've been waiting 4 years for those changes, and those changes still have not come. Finally, under this mayor's leadership, we lost 40,000 film jobs, and it took nearly 3 years to appoint a film liaison, the point person for making sure a film can happen here. And we need a tax credit and advocacy in Sacramento for the kind of tax credit that is the same that Georgia has, that's the same that New Jersey has, that's taking jobs away from here. A tax credit with no cap that accommodates above the line. This is the kind of tax credit that Angelenos deserve, and one that I would be the loudest and strongest advocate for.
But
Thank you.
She's going to be the strongest and
30
loudest.
seconds, if you would,
She's going to be
please.
the strongest and loudest advocate for something that you have been on the city council for 6 years. You've been at City Hall twice as long as I have. I realize you want to pitch yourself as somebody from the outside, but where were you? You introduced no motions for the entertainment industry. I was in Sacramento advocating. As a matter of fact, I did the first tax credit when I was Speaker of the House. You were nowhere. Even when it came time to vote for the entertainment industry, you walked on votes. As a matter of fact, I believe you have missed several thousand votes because you don't show up to work.
I'm sorry, I have to be able to respond to that. I mean, this mayor, I think she knows
Have you
that-
missed several thousand votes?
Yeah, I mean, we all miss.
Yeah.
We all miss
Yeah.
days of. We
She
all
said
miss
yeah.
days of council. We all miss days of council. But she knows, as well as I do, that I have had regular absences because I've been appointed to external boards that lead me to miss regular council meetings because these bodies that I've been appointed to by the previous mayor, by this mayor, sometimes conflict with our council days.
She
I've
has
also
the
had some absences to take care of my kids or when I get sick, but nothing.
All right.
Nothing
She has the
beyond the
second
norm.
worst attendance record.
If you've
of
been to a city
anybody in
council
the
meeting,
city
if
Because
you've been to a
of-
city council
beca-
meeting, we could skip
Other
something.
council
Also-
members have outside appointments too.
All right.
You are not the only one, but they find their way to work.
All right, all right.
Well, look.
All right, in the next round,
I do just want to say, if I was such a poor worker, why did you appoint me to all of these external boards? Why was I the city's voice on these entities?
Well, you know what? We really
All right.
need
Why
to look
was I
at
the
that.
Housing
That
and
needs to
Homelessness
change.
Committee chair for so long? I was doing
Are you getting ready to resign?
good job. I was doing a, I'm sorry?
I said, are you getting ready to resign?
all right, we're going to move
I
on.
will
We're
accept
going to
your
move on.
resignation.
The next round of questioning is going to be one question from each of the four of us, and I'm going to go back to the homelessness issue. Yesterday, the city council voted 10-3 to end enforcement in 4118 zones, the special zones around schools, parks, worship, institutions of worship, and so forth. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Councilman Raman and Soto Martinez yesterday said,
I didn't say anything yesterday.
It's because,
Yes.
but he said essentially it's ineffective because you're shuffling people from one location to the next. Under what scenario is it not safer for our children, for ourselves, to move crazed drug addicts away from schools?
In a scenario where they're not on the street at all. And that's the solution that I've been pushing for. This particular resolution,
Right.
at its most effective, uses scarce city resources to move an encampment 500 feet down the block. I think we can do better. We can use our scarce city resources to actually end homelessness. We can end street homelessness. In my district last year, we reduced street homelessness by 49% over the past few years that I've been in office. We've reduced tents, RVs, and encampments in our district by 70%. This is possible to do, but we have to have a bigger imagination than thinking that the best that we can do in Los Angeles is to think about which block an encampment should be on. We should be removing encampments from our streets completely. We have every tool and every dollar we need to do that.
Where did the 49% go specifically?
They go into shelter, they go into, we have, sorry, this is my time to
Yeah,
answer.
let her-
Yes, you got to let me answer, Mayor Bass. We have
You
four
gotta-
shelters across the district, and we put people in there. Inside Safe has come into our district because we've begged for it. We have begged for it, and we have brought people into there. We've brought people into permanent supportive housing, time-limited subsidies. We've applied for multiple grants and gotten it from the state government.
So you
to get more
challenge the
shelter beds in our
49%
street.
figure.
No, I don't challenge the 49%. The question is, who did it? The 49% was done by Inside Safe.
No,
She had
sorry.
encampments
I'm so
off
sorry.
of the
No,
405 freeway that
No.
we removed.
We had-
The encampment on the, wait a minute now, it's my turn.
But you were
the
interrupting me
encampment
the whole
off
time,
of the
Mayor Bass.
101 freeway was removed by Inside Safe.
We've had-
You have had encampments. You also have no problem with encampments being in front of schools.
Absolutely
And
not. We
you
don't have any
said
encampments
so.
near schools in our district.
Well, you don't
there
have
were when I
encampments
first
near-
started.
See, this is the issue, is
there
that the
were-
audience doesn't know who to believe, and they
Well,
don't
yeah.
have a lot of confidence in either of you have the definitive plan. Now, I know this is an issue that is the most complex in our
Yes.
society. And I don't expect you to say by next week it's going to be resolved.
Well,
But the thing is, we can't even agree on who's done what and what the numbers are and who has
actually,
the best approach. And
we
that's
have-
why people feel the disconnect, because you're not listening to what they're saying.
No, we
they don't
are.
want homeless encampments in front of a
No,
school.
I don't, and there
they
are
understand-
none in my district.
in your district, but
There
we're
are
talking
none
about
in my
citywide.
district.
All right,
Because
this
we
is
did the work.
This isn't
Sorry.
going to be a debate on just on homeless. We got to move on to Larry
Yes,
Slade
I just
from
do want to
Homeowners
respond to
Association.
one thing that she said.
Very
because,
quickly,
Yes,
very quickly.
because homelessness actually went up citywide.
Right.
In the rest of the
Because
city,
we
it went
all
up
have so much
8%.
confidence
It went
in
up
the last account.
It doesn't matter. Those are the numbers that we have. Those are the numbers that we have. It went up 8% citywide, and it went down in my district.
All right.
Inside Safe is a citywide program.
Well, that's
It
why you're
can't-
running for mayor.
It can't go up across the entire city, and the mayor's not to blame for it, and go down in my district, but the mayor can take credit for
All right,
it.
let's-
It doesn't
okay.
make sense. The math does not add up.
Okay.
The math does
Larry
not
Slade
add
from
up.
Sherman Oaks Homeowners.
We do need to move on. I'm going to change the subject a little bit. I'm going to ask you both a question about zoning and land use. And I'm going to give you a hypothetical. Sue and Tom have owned their single-family home in Sherman Oaks for 30 years. They raised their kids there and plan to retire there. Their block sits within a half mile of a transit stop on Ventura Boulevard. Under a new state law, a developer can now build a multi-story apartment building on the lot next door. No public hearing, no city council vote over the objection of every homeowner on the block, because Sacramento has overridden the local zoning that used to protect that neighborhood. Yes or no, and then please expound. Do you support the state having that authority over our neighborhoods? And was it a good idea to abrogate local control over zoning?
Who are you talking to?
Mayor.
Sure.
Do I support that? No, I do not. And I do not support Sacramento and telling us what to do. Here's the thing. I think that those laws make sense for some cities, but in our city where we rezoned the entire city to make room for 500,000 units, we are very committed to building housing. But what I learned from you all when I was running, what the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association does, I think is a model for other places in the city. You do not want high rises in your single family streets. But what you do say that you welcome are homes built on the commercial corridors. I think that the best way to get housing built is when you build it with communities and reach agreements with communities, as opposed to Sacramento saying, this is the way it has to be.
Okay. And Mayor Bass, a quick follow-up. You asked Governor Newsom to veto this law, SB 79, and he refused, and it's in effect now. What will you actually do as mayor to stop it from coming into force in LA, since you don't have the power to repeal a state statute? What
Well,
can be done?
So what could be done is in the next session, you could have a carve-out. You could have a carve-out for cities that have already demonstrated their commitment to build housing. And our city has been exemplary in that. Again, in my time, 42,000 units of housing, affordable housing, hundreds of vacant office spaces turned into housing. We are building housing everywhere, but I think it should be done with communities. I also don't want to see housing built and push long-term residents out of neighborhoods that would lead to gentrification in some areas in our city that are sensitive to that.
Thank you. Councilmember, same question.
Yes, so I don't think the state should have to do our work for us. I really don't. So we should be doing that work. But the city is not. We're not building the housing we desperately need. 40,000 units have been entitled under Executive Directive 1, but very, very few of them have actually been built because this city is not hospitable for building. We have not zoned appropriately for the kind of housing shortage that we have right now. And we have a housing shortage that is so extreme that this city is actually pushing out working families every single day. We had a drop in this city of 16% in the number of children under 18 that live here because families with children cannot afford to live in Los Angeles anymore. We have to solve this problem. This is a massive problem for the future of Los Angeles. This is a massive problem for our region's resiliency. So let's actually plan for it. Let's have a planning department that does the work to actually build these units, zone for these units, and once we do that, Sacramento will not impose their will on us anymore.
But you say that we shouldn't allow the state to do the work for us, but they have done it for us.
Because we're not doing it.
Do you support the laws that they've passed?
We can actually put forward, instead of just saying no to SB 79, here's what I wanted the city to do. I wanted us and our planning department to go out there and to say, hey, we'd like to zone for the housing that we need. Let's create a plan that accommodates this housing in ways that our neighborhoods will welcome, that makes our neighborhoods more beautiful, and show them our work. We can show them our work and actually make it so that Sacramento listens to us. We're the largest housing market in the entire state. We should go up there and tell them how we want to accommodate more neighbors in this city. How do we want to solve our housing shortage? And if we take it seriously, they'll take us seriously. Right now, they're not taking us seriously.
So, and one quick follow-up to that. United Neighbors created a plan to oppose SB 79 and to propose building density along transit corridors. My understanding is that you opposed that plan and supported SB 79.
No.
If that's not the case, please correct us.
I had proposed a slightly different version that would, but the city did not do a plan that would accommodate what SB 79 wanted to do. We had to come up with something different. The planning department, by the way, still has the time. So you didn't ask me this, but if I'm mayor, what I will do is actually work with the planning department to ensure that we're meeting the requirements of this law, but in ways that neighborhoods will welcome those changes, in ways that actually preserve what we love about our neighborhoods while still bringing in more neighbors. That's possible to do. It takes real work, and that's work I want to do. I am an urban planner by training, and I love thinking about cities, and I love thinking about what makes them magical.
All right, Howard from Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council.
Thanks very much. Pleasure. Thank you for being here this evening. We've talked about housing, talked about homelessness. Let's talk about something that's at the root of any and all things that happen in the city, and that is spending and budgeting. Because many taxpayers argue that the Los Angeles does not have a revenue problem, it has a spending problem. Do you agree or disagree with that statement? And then please identify at least 3 examples of waste, inefficiency, or duplication you would eliminate to restore public confidence in City Hall. Either one can take.
Well, I believe that we have both. We have a spending problem and we have a revenue problem. We absolutely need both in the city. In terms of what I would identify as problems, I think in a lot of our departments, and this is something that we're beginning the process of, a lot of our departments are continuing to administer programs that are old, that are out of date, that should be ended. And unfortunately, because when a program is started, there is nothing in place to evaluate it and to say that this is no longer needed, they just continue on and on and on and continue with that staff. What I want to see happen is that we end these programs. We evaluate the ones that are not working anymore. We end them, not to get rid of staff, but to reassign staff, because clearly we need more staff out there providing basic city services, such as installing the 60,000 solar lights to move us away from copper lights in the solar lights so that they're not being stolen anymore.
Yes, please.
Great, yeah, and I think, yes, we absolutely have a spending problem at the city, and one of the big reasons that I ran was because I think so much of the spending in our city is politically motivated. We put money towards big projects like the expansion of the downtown LA Convention Center, which is supported by downtown business interests who are then funding Mayor Bass's campaign, but we're now paying out billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in debt service every single year for the next 30 years. And the city then has to come back to homeowners to ask for more money for fixing streetlights. Here's 3 places I would cut. I think we need to do better liability management. We have huge liabilities. We don't have a handle on them. We don't have a single person in the city who's supposed to be managing our liabilities, and liabilities have ballooned. We need to take charge of that. We need to reduce that across every single department. I also think we can certainly improve our homelessness spending. There's duplicative spending that's happening. There's spending that's happening, as I mentioned, in the Inside Safe program, where we're spending huge amounts of money for motel rooms that we can be significantly better at spending.
Okay, Tammy from the chamber.
Could I respond, especially what you said to about the convention center?
Can you do it in 30 seconds?
I can. Los Angeles, the nation's second largest city, needs a convention center to attract conventions. Since we have started the building, the expansion of the convention center, we have 15 new conventions that have already signed up, and it hasn't even finished being built. We need to bring that in. We need to act like we are the next nation's second largest city.
You're not going to put gold leaf
This
on
is
it.
a $3 billion project. We're going to be paying $100 million a year.
He didn't call on you.
While we're going out to the
Okay,
residents.
let's move on. All right. Go ahead, and let's let Councilperson Raman start the answer on this one.
Okay, just across the parking lot from here, La Fogata Restaurant has been serving our community for 50 years. So now, an unpermitted street vendor is operating in the parking lot and selling tacos. How is that fair to an established local business that pays rent and taxes and complies with health and business regulations? Shouldn't LA County require street vendors to meet the same health and safety standards as brick and mortar restaurants?
Great. So I really, really value our restaurant community. I love going out to eat. My family loves going out to eat. The food of Los Angeles is incredibly important. Street vendors in Los Angeles are a vibrant part of our community as well. And if regulated appropriately with health and safety standards, if we can go out there and make sure that vendors are operating safely, cleanly, and with a license, the city has a licensing program that makes sure that vendors are not blocking sidewalks, that they're not in high fire risk areas. I believe the two can coexist in LA and actually make this city better. Different people go to different places to eat. The market is segmented by customers. People want to go out and eat
her
with a
question is
street
that they're
vendor.
not being regulated.
No,
They're not
there
being
is regulation.
permitted.
We need to do that regulation appropriately. And I think that gets to the question of departmental efficacy. The mayor manages departments. I'm running because I want to make sure our departments are doing their jobs. The mayor is the CEO of the city, and the city needs to function for everyone, including for vendors and for restaurants.
There's actually no one out there regulating them.
I'm happy to answer that.
Yeah.
I do not think that you should have a food vendor in front of a restaurant, period. You should not do that. I also think that we can do better by our street vendors, and I know that there is a pilot program right now. I would like to see street vendors move into brick and mortar facilities so they can be restaurants. I would like to see them regulated in a way that they're in certain locations. I understand that people need to survive. People who have difficulty finding work need to do that. You know, my time sure goes by awfully quickly. I don't know. I barely get a couple of words out. But anyway, I think you've asked a straightforward question, and a straightforward answer is that you really shouldn't sell food right in front of a restaurant. And you can move that person so that that person can have a living, make money, but not right in front of a restaurant that discourages patrons from going in. Just like you shouldn't have encampments in front of restaurants or in front of schools. You just should not do that. We have to end street homelessness, period.
Thank you. Our next question for Councilwoman Raman. Why is it that none of your colleagues on the city council, including other DSA members, have endorsed you for mayor?
Well, I did run at the last minute. Many of them had endorsed this mayor beforehand, including me. I had also endorsed this mayor before I ran. And when you're a council member, you have to work with the sitting mayor in order to get what you need for your constituents. That's what you need to do. That's the truth of it. But I wasn't endorsed by anyone before I first ran for office, and when I came in, I was able to work really productively with my fellow council members, have had one of the most productive legislative careers, changing tenant protections for the first time in 40 years, significantly protecting millions of renters, changing redistricting to make it not corrupt. We passed that, and then you voted for it when we put it on the ballot. We've passed big legislation, and I've worked closely with my other council members to do it, and I'll continue doing that whether I stay a council member or whether I become mayor.
Mayor Bass, do you have a response to that?
Yes,
one
I do.
minute?
She has no support from the council members because nobody can work with her. That is a problem. The people don't want to be on her committee. As a matter of fact, your committee met today. You called the meeting today. It was your last meeting, and you didn't even show up to your last meeting. You weren't there. So what I learned from council members, and I think there's one in our audience now, people can't work with you. You can't manage your committee, but yet you want to manage the city. You have a lot of aspirations in what you say you are going to do, but you have been in City Hall twice as long as I have, and I'm not sure what your accomplishments are, including the tenant protections, which was taken out of your committee because you kept, yes, it was passed by the entire city council because it was taken out of your committee because you kept wanting to study it. City council and city hall is not an academic institution.
All right, brief response.
Yes. I just want to say that when those tenant protections that I championed passed the full council, this mayor congratulated me, and it was on the front page of the LA Times for passing these protections because they passed under my leadership. Things change when you're running against someone, and I would say that we've had real results in my council district on homelessness. We've had real results in terms of legislative interventions across the entire city. I've been a good steward of the resources that have been given to me, and my track record is very clear. But LA and Angelenos feel like they're moving in the wrong direction. 70% of survey respondents say that, and that is the evidence of this mayor's record.
All right, we're going to move to the next question.
Thank you. I'm going to loop back to the homelessness issue, but specifically with regard to mental illness, and I have another hypothetical for you. John is a 52-year-old homeless veteran who lives on Ventura Boulevard. He's an alcoholic with serious mental illness, and he has refused inside safe housing, refused treatment, and has cycled through 5 5150 holds, released back onto the street every time. Right now, he is screaming incoherently and threatening Alice, an elderly passerby. Alice is afraid. Yes or no, should John be forcibly removed from the street right now? If yes, what then?
So I think there's two pathways for someone like that who is deeply mentally ill to be removed from the street. And those are pathways that have happened in my council district. We've worked to get people who are unable to take care of themselves into involuntary conservatorship. And we've worked with people in Sherman Oaks to get people into involuntary conservatorship. It takes a long time. You have to work with the county. The county never shows up. You really have to advocate for it to happen. The other option is that that doesn't happen and people who are in that situation get arrested. And they go to the largest mental health facility in LA, which is our Twin Towers jail. Those are really the pathways that people with deep mental illness follow. And we are doing our absolute darndest on our district streets to make sure that people are getting into care, whatever pathway it may be. We call Department of Mental Health every single day. We have weekly meetings. We have a caseload, and we're trying to push them along that pathway. But it is a long process. And in the meantime, people get arrested because they are unable to care for themselves on the street. And those are our only two options right now. And we are pushing to make sure that people with mental illness are off the streets and in care.
And so thank you, but as a follow-up to that same question, does it qualify as criminalizing homelessness, in your opinion, to arrest someone who's threatening people on the street?
No.
Or, let me finish the question. Or do people on the street have a right to be safe on the street and protected from someone who's suffering from a mental breakdown and episode?
100%. Everyone has the right to be safe walking in LA's streets. And the work that I've done in this council district, when I was first elected, there were huge encampments across this district. We worked to get rid of them, many of them here or nearby here, at Coldwater 101, at Van Nuys 101, at Ventura and Fruitland, where we had people in a parking lot that the previous council member had let stay there for so long. We housed all of those people. We got people off the street, and some of them went to mental health care. They had to. They needed that. People should feel safe on our city streets, and the only way we can get to it is through relentless work. That is what I commit to you citywide, that we will see results citywide.
Thank you. Mayor Bass, I have the same question, but I think one of the things that you and the council member tend to agree on is that the solution to homelessness is to build more housing. And there is a certain aspect of the population that just refuses to accept housing.
Right.
What do you do about those people?
So let me just tell you that you're going to have to give me equal time to that, okay? So let me just say, first of all, the scenario that you laid out was, what are you going to do right then at that moment?
Yes.
I spent years working in LA County's emergency room. I have worked with people who were in severe mental health crises. And I believe, and this is a controversial thing to say, but I believe that there should be involuntary hospitalization. What she is talking about, conservatorship, takes a very long time. You asked about a problem that was happening on the street today. That is what we should do. No, it is not.
Let the mayor answer the question,
Now,
please.
you're the urban planner. I'm the medical person, okay? So I understand a 5150 is a 72-hour hole. That is not what I am talking about. I am talking about the need to put somebody in long-term hospitalization to protect them so that they don't kill themselves or they don't hurt someone else. We passed Proposition 1. We are beginning to build the facilities now. And unfortunately, the facilities that are being built will be controlled by the county, and so who gets the placements will be determined by the county. When I have had numerous discussions with the councilwoman and conflicts with her over the fact that she thought it was okay for people to stay on the street. They just needed to have better services while they were on the street. For people who cannot leave, who feel that they cannot leave the streets or they refuse to, they absolutely need to be removed for their own protection, but also for the protection of others. But until the city is in control over the services, we are going to continue to rely on the county, because the best that she could do in the situation you described is to call the county. And we've had numerous examples when the county was called and the county was right there.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I have a quick follow-up. How do you get around the problem that the county is responsible for enforcing these issues? What is the workaround for that? What's your solution?
Sure. Well, ultimately, it is state law. And again, because I served in Sacramento, I have been talking to and working with the leadership up there to say that voluntary conservatorship was a good first step, but it is woefully inadequate. We have to have involuntary conservatorship that you can enforce immediately. People need the care, and now that we're building the facilities, we will have a place for them to go. A couple of years ago, we didn't have the facilities. We had no place for people to go. But those facilities are coming online, and by the way, there's going to be an 800-bed facility right in the smack of downtown LA with St. Vincent's Hospital.
One sentence to respond to that. I do just want to say, so many of these responses are about plans for the future. You've been the mayor for 4 years, and the results have not changed. The results are visible on our streets. The evidence is very clear. We needed to have started these changes many years ago in order for them to be realized today. In my district, homelessness has gone down because of our relentless focus on it. I do not want people sleeping on the streets. Guess what that takes? Work. That takes action. That takes leadership. That takes management. That takes data. That takes oversight. That's what's missing in City Hall right now, citywide. We can make the progress that you deserve, but we need the leadership to make it. That is why I'm running for mayor.
All right, we're going to move on to the next question from Howard.
Yes, very good. Let's explore infrastructure and basic city services. And this is for, we'll start with Councilmember Raman, please. Residents and businesses often say they care less about political rhetoric and more about fixing potholes, broken sidewalks, street lights, parks, trees, and graffiti. What structural changes would you make to ensure city departments deliver faster, more accountable, and measurable results?
Great. Well, thank you for that question. And it is an incredibly important one because every Angelino that I talk to, no matter what part of the city they live in, have seen the sharp drop in services that we've had under this mayor's leadership. And that is because of disastrous fiscal mismanagement at the city that has spent money for political support rather than for what Angelinos need, which has resulted in things like streetlight repair, 30,000 streetlights being out across the city, and streetlight repair going from a month to repair a broken streetlight to now over a year. Fewer potholes being filled than ever before, fewer streets being repaved than ever before. This is a major, major problem that we absolutely need to improve on. Here's one simple way in which we can do better. The Bureau of Sanitation had extra funding given to it by the voters, but we don't have what we had in the Garcetti administration, which was oversight. We didn't have metrics about where we're actually filling picking up garbage, where garbage is on our streets and how quickly we're picking it up. It was a program called Clean Stat. It was dismantled, not put back, and now we have a city that's dirtier. I would use that kind of management to make sure that we were delivering services better for Angelinos.
Yes, Mayor Bass?
Yeah, let me just say that when the budget is put together, the mayor proposes the budget to the council. The councilwoman has been active in that process and had many opportunities to deliver on things that she is saying, considering that she has been in the council for over 6 years. She talks about leadership. She is the leader, or I would say was the leader, on homelessness and housing. You have lots of plans and lots of ideas, but have done very little. You talk about what has happened in your district. It did not happen alone, but that position is a citywide position of which you did very, very little. I will say that it took my administration to move from copper lights to move to solar lights. The city was continuing to replace copper lights over and over again. We are installing 60,000 solar lights right now. In the years before I got there, we could have done some of this, or I should say you could have done some of this. By the way, the nation's second largest city has never had a comprehensive infrastructure plan. We started 2.5 years ago developing that plan. We need to make some changes to the charter in order to implement that plan.
Yeah.
And I just would like a little response to that. I do just want to say that I'm one council member among 15. I put forward motions, but the mayor is the CEO of the city. And sometimes when this mayor talks about how much power I have, I feel like she fundamentally misunderstands the power of the mayor's seat. When you have power but you don't use it, it looks like you don't have that power at all. But this is a powerful mayor. The mayor hires and fires every department head. The mayor sets the priorities for every department. The mayor writes the budget. The mayor signs the contracts. The mayor is a powerful figure. And you have to use that power to advance Angelino's interests. That's what I want to do. That's why I'm running.
All right, let's move on to Tammy.
So Mayor Bass, When issues arise in our community, we've been able to reach out to you or your office, and you've made yourself available to meet with residents and local businesses. Councilman Raman, many organizations and constituents in CD4 feel unheard and believe their concerns are not receiving equal engagement. I mean, as a chamber, we've been asking for a business walk for 4 years. It's been, we haven't had one with you. We haven't had one with you. Our local restaurants.
I've done business walks in Sherman Oaks, but anyway.
Okay, our local restaurants and businesses
I've done
have
multiple business walks.
Our
in
local
Studio
businesses have
City, in the bid.
not feeling that way.
Yes,
Okay.
sure.
So in what ways will you both commit to being accessible and engaging with all constituents, including those who may disagree with you?
Well, I've engaged with many residents across the district. I've also engaged with this community. I've come to meetings here. This is my 5th Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association just debate, and I've come to this association. I was at Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council just 3 weeks ago, or a month ago, and I stayed for an hour and a half answering questions, giving out certificates. We have organized numerous events in the park in partnership with the Neighborhood Council, including movie nights, concerts, and we do a huge amount of case management. We help to bring the historical site at Corky's and make sure that that had real historic preservation and opened quickly. We worked with the Conservancy and others to ensure that that opened, and now it's a benefit to the community instead of a blight on the community as it was for a very long time. We've worked with business owners across the district to make sure that when they met a city that was resistant to the things that they needed, whether it was al fresco permits, whether it was appointments with DWP, our office was there case managing them, and I make that same commitment as mayor.
Okay, you mentioned al fresco. Christy Vega of Casa Vega contacted your office several times regarding permits needed to open her new restaurant patio. After being unable to get the issue resolved, she reached out to Mayor Bass, whose office was able to help get the matter cleared immediately.
I would also request that we ask some other business owners whether I've been a good partner to them, because I have. Ventura Place businesses where we installed string lights. I just think that, we have been a good partner to businesses here. We've been a strong partner to businesses here. We've addressed homelessness along Ventura Boulevard. We've shown up for our business community, not just in Sherman Oaks, but across the entire district. And we've really, really made a big effort to make sure that businesses who are dealing with bureaucracy that they did not deserve actually got the responses that they need from this city. And that urgency is felt by every single staff member in my office.
You want a rebuttal?
Hold on one second, I'm sorry. If there's shout outs, I am going to ask you guys to leave. I'm keeping an eye on the folks that are doing it on both sides, please. We have a lot more questions to go. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just say that for the last 4 years, let me reintroduce myself. I'm your mayor, but I've also been your council member. You called on me 4 years ago, and you asked me to come here and to help you because your council member was unresponsive. I called you, Councilwoman, and I told you that your constituents were calling on me to come out here. You said go right ahead because you didn't particularly want to deal with them. And for the last 4 years, I have been serving. When you have called on me, there are many people here who have my cell phone. You have called on me when there were problems with your businesses. You have called on me to clear the Sepulveda Basin. You have called on me when there were encampments. You have called on me any number of times because you were not able to get a response from the councilwoman. You said that no one answers her phones. You said that no one calls back. Listen, I'm just telling you what your constituents have said to me. And so they were very concerned when you decided to run for mayor, because their concern was if you treated them this way and they were your voters, then how on earth were you going to manage the city?
Brief response.
I want to tell you that I hear from constituents all over the city who have felt let down by this mayor's office over and over again. 2/3 of voters in this primary chose against an incumbent mayor. That is very rare. In one of the highest turnout primaries that we've seen, in LA. People are really dissatisfied. People are really dissatisfied. And of course, there's going to be people who complain. That's the nature of this job. This is the hardest job there is, except for hers. Being a council member, I would say, is the hardest job there is. The mayor is the hardest job. I will say that. And people are going to be unhappy. I don't doubt that there is dissatisfaction out there. What I will do is defend my staff to the utmost. I have an incredibly responsive team. We show up to meetings. We work really hard. We resolve complaints. And if you ask people across the entire district, that responsiveness is a hallmark of the work that we do.
Thank you. Our next question has to do with, for Councilwoman Raman, as a DSA candidate.
Yes.
There's concern among some people about the growing influence of DSA, what it would lead to, anarchy, less public safety, government intrusion,
Sure.
Even attacks on Jewish people. I mean, is any of those legitimate concerns if you became mayor?
Absolutely not. I have been a DSA member for a number of years.
And what does that mean exactly to people who aren't quite
I'm
sure?
a member of DSA LA here, which is a local political organization. I'm also a member of the Democratic Party. And by the way, for both of those organizations, there's plenty of things that DSA members say and do that I disagree with, and there's plenty of things that Democrats say and do that I disagree with, including some of the extreme positions that the DSA sometimes takes. My record has been one of independence. When I've been on council, I've sometimes spoken up against things that my allies believe and support, and I've stood up and I've taken the political hits over and over again. Everything that I've done
one of those off the top
yeah,
of your
so
head?
on ULA, for example, the mansion tax, I fought to reform it against real pushback from the DSA, from a number of people who had endorsed me in my last race. I took the political hits, and I still believe it needs reform. My goal and my vision is always to go where we can deliver results for Angelenos, and I will always look at policies and reevaluate if they're not working, and my commitment to you in office is that I'll always be an independent voice for you.
Do you want to comment on that DSA phenomenon? Do you think it is something of concern or not?
Well, let me just say that I am proud to have received the support of the Democratic Party, of the labor movement, and of the business community. It was the first time that the business community came together, and all of the business organizations did a collective endorsement, including the DSA members of the City Council. So that says something.
All right. Thank you for that response. Larry?
Thank you. I'd like to loop back to zoning and land use issues, and I have questions for both candidates. We talked before about the spate of legislation that has come out of Sacramento that has basically served to gut local control over zoning. For many, many years, the local communities in Los Angeles had significant influence of what was built and where to control the development in their neighborhoods. That is gone now. The local protections have been gutted, height limits have been destroyed, density limits on single-family lots are swept aside, parking requirements are gone. Many people would define the American dream as owning a house with your own yard and some privacy. That dream is not only under real pressure now, some would argue that it's been eviscerated in the city of Los Angeles. I have this question for you, Councilmember. What, if anything, have you done to protect single-family homes?
Yes, that's a good question. I think that what we need to do to build the kind of housing that we need to be able, we have a huge housing shortage here in the city of Los Angeles, and that housing shortage is transforming this city. It is actually one of the causes of our homelessness crisis. It is driving working families out of the city. We have the fewest homes per adult of any city in America and the highest rent burden population of any city in America. And I already mentioned that stat about 16% drop in children here in the city as families are moving out because they can't afford LA anymore. We have to change that. And so how do you preserve the diversity of neighborhoods in LA? I think you find smart ways to increase density across this city, near transit hubs, near places where there's availability.
I don't think you're answering the question. He asked you, what did you do to protect single-family homes?
That's what I've done. So I've done this thing where we actually have new plans like CHIP that are meeting the goals of our housing element, which I helped to push forward. I helped to shepherd through the council that have gotten us to the goals that we're getting asked by the state to put in place to make sure that we are actually zoning for meeting that housing shortage. And I just want to say, the attacks on single-family homes will continue to come the longer this city shies away from its responsibility to build. The state will continue to impose its mandate. We can have a philosophical discussion about single-family zoning, but if we're not doing the work, if this mayor's planning department is not doing the work to get us to the goals that we need to, the state will continue to impose its mandates on us.
As a follow-up to that, I think I can speak for many homeowners when they say that they understand the need to build housing. They understand that there's a shortage of housing and that it's very expensive to live in the city of Los Angeles. What many of us want to know is, why does the single family have to be under attack when you can build housing on vacant lots and underused commercial space and office buildings, which are at least 25 to 30% unoccupied now? Why target single-family neighborhoods? SB 79 provides a blind, it's not smart development, it blinds a blind half-mile circular requirement that if you're within a half-mile of a transit hub, they can put up a 6-story apartment building on your cul-de-sac. Does that sound right to you?
No, and I think the state is using a sledgehammer on the city because the city is not doing the work. I'm running for mayor because I want to do the work. Let's actually plan for the housing that we need. We can actually preserve many single-family neighborhoods, but we have to add density in places which make sense for development to actually happen. We can't fake our way out of it. We can't fake plan our way out of it. We have to do the work. The work is what I want to do. We actually can stop Sacramento's sledgehammer, but we have to put in the work in LA.
But the city of LA and the mayor recently passed a resolution to oppose SB 79 and proposed alternatives to do just what you referred to. You opposed that resolution, did you not?
So I said the resolution did not propose alternatives. The alternatives and the new plan for how we accommodate SB 79 came out of work done by the planning department that's slowly making its way through council. All the resolution said was, we oppose SB 79. It did not say, hey, we're the biggest housing market in the state. Can we talk about how to accommodate this in ways that make sense for Los Angeles? Let us come up there and discuss this legislation with you. That's what the city needs to do in order to meet its housing requirements. We're not doing that right now. And the evidence is Sacramento is taking a sledgehammer to us. Let's do the work. I want to do the work.
And opposing SB 79 would have been a good start.
No.
I want to turn the floor. I want to turn the floor to Mayor Bass.
How would that have been a good start? It still passed.
Because it's gutting single-family neighborhoods. And
Wait a minute, there are two people here.
I'm going to turn to you now, Mayor Bass, and ask you, what have you done to protect single-family housing?
Well, first of all, let me just say that I think, both of us own single-family homes. And I bet you neither one of us is willing to give up our homes. I think that the state is not giving a sledgehammer to Los Angeles in particular. It is state law that is being implemented or enforced across the state. What our role here is to make sure that Sacramento understands that we are already doing the work. She mentioned the CHIP program. The CHIP program came out of my office. It was essentially the rezoning of the entire city to make room for 500,000 units. We are doing the job. I believe that it can be done with neighborhoods. It can be done with neighborhoods, and I think that one of the innovative ways to do it is to do it in areas where there is commercial strips where housing is being done. This is happening in the 8th City Council District, down Crenshaw Boulevard. You look at Crenshaw Boulevard now, and it's almost all housing. It didn't disturb the single-family homes in the neighborhoods that were nearby. And you talk about some of these neighborhoods in the African American and the Latino community where people have fought for years to be in neighborhoods that they were prohibited from owning, and now they own. We don't want to lead to gentrification. We don't want the building of housing to drive more people out of the city, because their housing was taken away. So it has to be done with care. I believe we are already doing the work, and Sacramento needs to understand that. There are many cities around, and the governor has filed lawsuits against some cities because they absolutely refuse to build any housing. It's a one-size-fits-all approach, and it doesn't fit the city of Los Angeles. We are already doing the work. I mentioned that one of the things that I would do would be to have a centralized development service authority so that a developer doesn't have to go to 12 different departments. We have expedited the red tape. We have cut the red tape. We have reduced the time for permits. We have taken numerous measures in the 4 years that I have been in office. My mic back on. Thank you. We have been doing the work in cutting the red tape. That's why we have 42,000 units that are underway. That's why we have 6,000 of those units that are currently under construction now. We also need to build on publicly owned land. So we are getting the job done, and Sacramento really does not have any business interfering in the city of Los Angeles because we're getting the job done.
Howard?
Yes. Well, speaking of housing, and I'll address to Mayor Bass first, and then Councilmember Raman. Density and infrastructure capacity is very important. Housing cannot exist in a vacuum. Every new development increases demand on streets, transit, schools, parks, water systems, sewers, and electrical infrastructure. Studies suggest that concentrating housing near existing jobs and infrastructure can reduce long-term public infrastructure costs, but only if those systems have sufficient capacity. How will your administration ensure that infrastructure investment keeps pace with increased density, and should development approvals ever be delayed if the supporting infrastructure is inadequate?
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. You're going to let me talk? Well, let me just say that that is why 2.5 years ago in my office, we started developing a comprehensive infrastructure plan. As I mentioned, Los Angeles was the only major city in the country that did not have a comprehensive infrastructure plan. Up until now, infrastructure was left to the whims of an individual council member. And if that council member was really committed to infrastructure, then you had infrastructure built in the district. However, the infrastructure that a city council member can deal with is only the infrastructure above the ground. If you were going to deal with the infrastructure below the ground, it has to be done on a citywide basis. We have seen the 110-year-old pipes that broke in West Hollywood. Those were our pipes, the Department of Water and Power. They have a plan to replace those pipes. Our infrastructure plan will allow that to work in coordination. Neighbors go crazy when their streets are torn up, and then 2 years later, the same street is torn up again because there's no coordination in our city. And so while we were doing all of the building and all of the high rises, we did not take into consideration the infrastructure below the ground.
Councilmember Raman?
We absolutely need a capital infrastructure plan. We don't have that yet. Sounds wonderful. We have one that's limited just for Olympics games. We don't have a citywide infrastructure plan. It's been 4 years. And you talk about departments, Mayor Bass, like they're not under your control when streets are getting ripped up twice in a matter of a few months. That kind of coordination is under the department's control. It's under the mayor's control. The city needs to take charge of its infrastructure. It absolutely does. We don't have that plan. I want to put that plan in place immediately, not wait 4 years to announce a plan, to create a plan.
The city absolutely does have a comprehensive infrastructure plan now. What she is referring to is that the prioritization of that plan is focused on the infrastructure near the Olympics, but the plan is much deeper than that. We have to make some changes to the city charter. Those will be on the ballot in November, and that will allow us to implement the plan. It is a two-step
All right, let's
plan.
move on to the
We
next
don't need
question.
changes to the charter to put a capital infrastructure plan in place.
Yes,
That we create a plan because a plan wasn't created.
Tammy?
So like many community members, I work from home. I don't feel safe at home a lot, especially with the amount of officers that we have, and we need to hire 170 additional officers right now to maintain adequate staffing levels, a request you, Councilman Raman, voted against. You even said here earlier that we need to retain the amount of officers we have now, which at last count were 8,300. So how am I going to feel safe? Especially with the Olympics coming in, all the officers will be there, a lot of them.
Yeah, and I think, we need to maintain our police force. We need to maintain the size of this force, and we have to find a real citywide response that can take so many of the calls for service that we're sending police out for. 40 to 60% of calls for service for many of my SLOs are about homelessness. We don't have a citywide response that can actually send trained people out who can deal with those calls. These are not police calls, but we're sending armed officers out for them. We need to make sure that we are actually building out that system. I want to do that by year 2. And we can do that if we plan for it, if we budget for it. This mayor has a patchwork system of unarmed response, circle here, UMCR here. We're wasting money, and it's not citywide yet, and it's not integrated with 911. We absolutely need to make sure that these calls for service are integrated with 911 and that they're actually able to take significant call load off of LAPD. We need to make sure that we are retaining our police force, but also that we're using them more effectively so that they can do the work that only armed officers can do. It's incredibly important that their time is preserved for that.
Councilman Raman, I just have a follow-up. If elected mayor, would you fire Chief McDonald and replace him?
Firing a police officer is hard to do for a mayor, but his term is up next. And I don't believe that his response to the ICE raids on our streets have met the moment. LAPD on our streets was often seen to be protecting ICE officers who were doing terrible things to our residents, who are kidnapping people, instead of protecting Angelenos. He said he wouldn't enforce a state law around a mask ban. I mean, this is a moment where immigrants in the city are under attack, and I feel like we do need police leadership that respects that and honors that. And I think we can find that leadership. We can find police leadership that takes into account every single resident of Los Angeles and make sure that they can feel safe.
It feels like the police were under attack during these ICE raids, too. The police were under attack many times during these ICE raids.
Excuse me, let me just say that you absolutely, since you know so much about the power, you absolutely have the power to fire the police chief on day 1. It is not hard to fire the police chief if you want to. No, that's actually not the case. Anyway, let me just say that in terms of a citywide response, what I did on day 1 was I started an Office of Community Safety. That Office of Community Safety has been where we have been intervening and preventing crime when crime occurs. We have a 60-year reduction in the homicide rate, especially gang-related homicides, which is the majority of the homicides that take place within the city, because we have intervention workers that we have hired. We have the GRID program. We have several programs that I was involved in pioneering many, many years ago, and we've institutionalized within the city. We are building the capacity for citywide unarmed response. The Circle program we have expanded through many neighborhoods. Excuse me, but you keep putting up that sign 2 seconds after I start speaking.
We're trying to hold to the time limits if we can.
But you have not been holding to the time
you both get
limits
the
with
exact
her.
same time limits.
So let me just say that we have integrated Circle and other armed response with 911. We do have the citywide approach. We need more resources in order to expand it even more, but that has already occurred. I'm not sure if you just don't know what's going on in the city or you disagree, but you have no problem in misrepresenting what is happening in your city.
No, I think, look, I'm sorry, but that's an untruth. Unarmed crisis response is only in a few divisions. It is a patchwork response. Some places have Circle, some places have UMCR. And I'm not sure why you need to be dismissive of that. That's the truth. And the reality is
I guess her
that you've
question
had
was,
four
her
years
question was she
to-
doesn't feel safe.
Yeah, and I think you need to have armed officers be able to respond, but they're responding to all of these other calls. Armed officers need to be able to do what only armed officers can do.
All right.
And the city is not organized to make sure that they're doing that right now. I want to reorganize it so that that actually happens. This isn't a plan for 4 years later. This is a plan for my first year in office.
Hello? You have been in office for 6 years. You have lots of plans. No. You are the council person, and frankly, everything that you were talking about, well, I don't think your district agrees with that. She just said everything that's happened in her district has happened well. I don't think that that is exactly the case. What you've done in your district, especially with Circle, was something that you asked us to do, which the mayor's office did come in and do it for you.
Absolutely. I advocated for my district over and over again. I said, we want Circle, and we got Circle. I fought for homelessness dollars for the district. That's what you're supposed to do as a council member. You go out there and you advocate for citywide dollars to come to meet your district's needs. I have no shame in having done that over and over again.
All right,
what I
thank
want
you.
to do, what I want to do is build a city where council members don't have to beg for these services, that they're actually delivered citywide with accountability and in ways that you can feel. You will feel safer under a Raman mayoralty.
All right, we have time for a few more questions, and we want to make sure we leave time for a good closing statement from both of you. Our friends at the LA Times reported today. How many people read the LA Times every day? Quickly. Okay. Councilwoman Raman, the LA Times reported that you've hired the same political consultant firm that managed Graham Plattner's campaign in Maine, who had to resign amidst sexual assault allegations. Is that true, and is that the best choice, and why did you make that decision?
Well, I did hire an advertising agency to make my paid ads, who also worked with Mayor Zoran Mamdani's successful mayoral campaign and many other successful campaigns across the entire city. Here's what I do want to say, that I want to win this race. I've retained most of my good campaign staff, unlike this mayor from the first primary, expanded in the general. We've made sure to invest in our team, and I hope that we can win this seat, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to win.
Did you make a decision? Did you weigh the pros and cons of being associated with Graham Plattner's campaign?
Absolutely, but we wanted to make sure that we were hiring good people to make our ads. We have to get talent to be able to run our team. We weighed the issues, but I also do want to say that in this mayor's innermost circle, she had communications advisors who were on her WhatsApp chats, who were also, at the same time that the fire was burning in Boyle Heights, were doing crisis PR consulting for Lineage where the fire was happening. That, to me, is a real problem. And that's the kind of challenge
let's let Mayor
that I
Bass
think
address that. That's a good point, yes.
Well, certainly.
That wasn't a good look, was it?
No, absolutely not, and certainly that should not have happened. However, I don't know what the heck that has to do with the question that you asked her.
I guess it's a question of
about who she
judgment.
asked. If I had known that person was doing that, that person would not have been advising me. When I realized it, found out about it, they stopped advising me. What we have to do is we are building a grassroots campaign. I am used to building broad-based coalitions that brings together people from all parts of the city, all different viewpoints, bringing the business community together, the labor community together, the Democratic Party, I'm sure people who are not Democrats together, because we want to make sure the city works. We cannot afford to have this city go backwards. We cannot afford to have this city be in chaos, especially 2 years before the Olympics. For somebody who has been on city council for 6 years, who has lots of ideas and lots of study, but very few receipts to show for what she has done in her time in office.
I just want to say that we have seen in results a drop in services, in all of the essential services that we have citywide. We have broken streetlights, more broken than we've ever had. We have broken sidewalks, more broken than we've ever had. We have potholes, more broken than we've ever had. We saw street homelessness go up citywide under this mayor's leadership. In my district, it went down. The results are clear. And I ask Angelenos to make a decision on this election based on the results. 2/3 of primary voters said no to this incumbent mayor because they see the evidence in front of their eyes.
That sidewalks were broken and all of that, and potholes emerged over the last 3 years.
Okay,
You are
let's move-
talking about infrastructure problems that have been in existence for decades.
Okay.
I took it on. I've been making a difference, and we can move this city forward.
Larry?
Thank you. I want to loop back to kind of finish a little bit where we started on the issue of homelessness, but I want to ask you kind of a philosophical question. Over the last 3 decades, the city of Los Angeles has thrown billions of dollars at the homeless problem. We've passed multiple propositions and measures, and taxpayers have paid a fortune to try to eradicate this problem. Most people believe that it's something that we have a responsibility to help people for. But my question to you, each of you, and this is an opportunity to get a little dose of honesty with your constituents, is homelessness a problem that can actually be solved by government? Can we buy our way out of this problem?
I don't believe that government can do it alone. I do think that homelessness can be solved, but we do have to get away from rigid ideology, because what has gone on in this city for years that I'm afraid that the councilwoman would send us back to if she became mayor is a rigid understanding of housing first, which means the only thing that is important is getting somebody off the street and into housing and not paying attention to the reason they became unhoused in the first place. If you don't address drugs, if you don't address mental illness, you will have accomplished nothing. There was a rigid perspective that said all we have to do is build housing, put all of the money in affordable housing, not build shelters, not build interim housing. One of the big conflicts that I have had with the councilwoman over the years is her reluctance and disagreement, the fact that we need to build interim housing and get people off the streets. It is not okay that you focus on leaving people on the streets until you build the housing. We have done that for too long. That's why the problem metastasized into dealing with the situation that we're dealing now. We have to end street homelessness. We have to get people off the streets immediately into more cost-effective housing. And we also need to transform the governance. That is the only way you're going to get transparency and accountability, both fiscally and programmatically, is when the city is in control, and it is not the city, the county, and LAHSA trying to manage this problem. That is why people don't get the health care that they need, they don't get the drug treatment that they need, or the mental health.
And so just a follow-up question to that. My question was, do you think it's a problem that government can solve? What do you think has been the biggest impediment to getting it solved? Because I don't think anyone could accuse either of you of not focusing on the issue. It is first and foremost, it is in the center, but I think you would agree that during your tenure, it certainly has not been resolved. Some would argue
No.
that it's gotten worse.
No.
What's the biggest challenge that you face?
Well, the biggest challenge is the dysfunctional system that has been in existence for about 40 years. That's what we need to blow up. That's what we need to change. And until we change that, I'm afraid that we're just going to be making incremental change, and we need to do much more than that.
Is government competent enough to spend the money that the taxpayers allocate?
I think that the government can be, but what we need, because this was your original question, can the government do it alone? No, we need private sector involvement. We need communities involved. Whenever we clear an encampment, we go to the neighborhood and we tell them, please let us know if one tent reemerges, and we will go after that. We need community involvement to end this problem, and we need major private sector investment.
Thank you. Councilmember?
I absolutely believe.
2 minutes, please.
Oh, sure. 2 minutes? Because she got it. Thank you. So I absolutely do believe that government can solve this problem, but we are not on track as a city to do it. In my district, I've delivered results by creating in this 265,000 person district an infrastructure within my office with leadership, with accountability, with data, with oversight, with relentless pushing. We have gotten the number of people in our district down. And yes, asking this mayor for the citywide resources we gave her to also be given to our district, as I should be. We are advocating for every bed. We are advocating for every dollar so that we can solve this problem, and we are making sure in the district that it is moving towards results, which is people getting off the streets. In our district, over my time in office, we've seen a 70% reduction in RVs, tents, and encampments. We're doing better than almost every other district across the entire city, maybe the best, because of the relentless work that we've put into it. But right now at City Hall, no one is in charge. Mayor Bass's office only looks at Inside Safe. That's the only program that her office manages. We are investing hundreds of millions of dollars in 8,000 beds across the city that are not being managed. You deserve accountability. You deserve transparency. You deserve an audit of these dollars, an independent audit. You deserve to see that the fact that you've put your trust over and over again in the city, you've taxed yourself 3 times to respond to the crisis on our streets with services and with shelter and with care. And by the way, I've built many more shelter beds in the district as well. So she's wrong about housing first being my only approach. But what you deserve is a system that matches your compassion for the people on the streets with results. That is what I want to build for you. That's what every Angelino deserves. You deserve a city that is working for you.
All right, thank
you. And
you.
I will deliver that.
All right, we're come to the end of the evening. We covered a lot of ground, and you each have 2 minutes maximum. If you can see that digital clock right there, they're making us end right at 8:30. So if you could help us with that, we'd appreciate it. 2 minutes each for a closing statement. Let's start with the mayor.
Well, let me just say that thank you for the opportunity to be with you again this evening, as I have been here many times. Like I said a few minutes ago, many of you in this room called on me. You called on me specifically for help because you were not getting a response from your council member. Many of you have my cell phone. You have called me when crime has surged. You have called me for the Sepulveda Basin. You have called me when your businesses have had difficulty. You have called me when there has been problems in your district because you did not receive the communication from your councilwoman. When I took office 4 years ago, the city was coming out of COVID, and we were facing decades of failed policies on housing, failed policies on public safety. We need to have a city that is safe, that is affordable, and we have an abundance of opportunities in this city, and I know that we can be a city that flourished. We have gotten thousands of people off the street during my tenure. We have fast-tracked 42,000 units of housing. We rezoned the entire city to make room for 500,000 units. We are changing vacant office buildings into housing. Unfortunately, the opponent that I have, who is here with me today, who does not have the support of not one of her colleagues, how is she going to govern the city when you have to govern with the city council? We have divided power within our city. She has been the point person for homelessness, a very powerful position that she declared as powerful when she lost it. When she had the position, she had such limited power. The mayor had all of the power. I do think, though, that Angelinos deserve a mayor who is honest, a mayor who is not going to mislead voters, a mayor who is not going to make things up and not acknowledge the fact that homelessness went down in her district because of what the mayor's office did.
Thank you.
Not because of her individual efforts.
Councilwoman Raman.
Thank you so much once again for having me here at the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. As I said, this is my 5th debate at SOHA, and it's always a pleasure to be here. And thank you, Phil, for always being a great host, and all of you for asking such wonderful questions. I'm running for this seat because I love Los Angeles. I really love this city. And in this race, I've been walking around, driving around the length and breadth of the city and talking to so many people. And what I hear from them is that this city feels rudderless, that there isn't real leadership, there isn't somebody at the top who's taking responsibility for results. In city council, I have a front row seat. I'm in City Hall, and I have news for you. Angelinos, you're right. No one is in charge right now. You have every right to expect more from your city. My 10-year-old twins only get one chance to grow up here. They can't wait 4 years for change or for things to get better. They can't. That's why I'm running. I feel an urgency for this change. Angelenos, we should raise our expectations. We should make sure that 911 calls are answered promptly. We should expect that our streetlights work and that our potholes are getting fixed. We should expect that leaders are prepared when emergencies strike, because guess what? They will strike here. Mayor Bass has had nearly 4 years as the CEO of Los Angeles. We are living in the results of her leadership. And I respect very much her long career of public service, but this election has to be about results. Los Angeles can be affordable, functional, safe, joyful, ambitious. And if you're ready for change, I want to invite you all to join us. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So I want to thank both candidates tonight. I want to thank LAS for the live broadcast tonight. Next month, Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association, again by invite, is the City Attorney's Office debate as well. So stay tuned. Hopefully LAS will join us on that night as well. Thank you, everybody.